Sign it, Aubrey, my father said with that smug smirk I'd grown to hate. The house, the accounts, the land, it's all going to us. You'll thank us later. I stared at the glossy mahogany table in the lawyer's office as a hush settled over the room. My mother twirled her pearls, clearly enjoying the moment. My cousin Jared leaned in with a smirk and whispered, "You're nothing without us. You'll come crawling back." Before we begin, drop a comment and tell us what would you do in this situation? Be honest, tell me in the comments below. We read every comment. Let's begin. I could still taste the bitterness of their betrayal on my tongue. My hand trembled slightly, not from fear, but fury. "I don't agree to this," I said quietly, sliding the pen across the table. "I want to read everything first." Laughter erupted like gunfire. "Oh, sweetheart," my mother cooed, "this is why we never took you seriously. Always pretending to be smart, but you're just a dreamer with no direction." "And broke," my Uncle Dennis added, wiping tears of amusement from his eyes. "That little art gallery of hers?
Closed. Sold.
Bank statements don't lie." "Your grandfather never trusted you with money," my father added. "That's why we're handling everything now. It's what's best for the family."
Family.
That word used to mean something. Until I found out they'd emptied my trust without telling me. Until they'd sold the only home I'd ever felt safe in, Grandpa Walter's farmhouse in Millstone. And now, they were ready to take the last thread of dignity I had left. But I stayed quiet. Let them dig their own grave. Let them mock me. The old lawyer, Mr. Beck, who had handled our family's legal affairs for decades, remained silent as the papers slid back and forth. He glanced at me from beneath his gray brows, his mouth a tight line. He looked hesitant, but no one else noticed, until he cleared his throat. "There is one more thing," he said, reaching into his briefcase. My father sighed, tapping his Rolex. "Harold, we've been here for 2 hours. We already signed the agreement. Let's wrap it up." But the room went dead quiet as the lawyer pulled out an envelope. Yellowed, with a red wax seal, stamped with a symbol only I recognized. The anchor crest. Grandpa's private seal. "What the hell is that?" my mother snapped, her smile vanishing. Mr. Beck placed it on the table in front of me. "This letter was left under special instruction. It is to be read only if the family disputes the original inheritance order. It overrides all previously submitted claims." "What?" Jared's face paled. I picked it up slowly. My fingers brushed the seal, and I swallowed the lump in my throat. "You can't possibly be saying," my father began. "I am." That cut him off firmly. "Walter Lawson left a secondary directive. And Aubrey, it names you." My heart thudded so loudly, I thought the walls would hear it. I cracked the seal and unfolded the letter, reading every word slowly, carefully, while the entire room watched with white-knuckled fists and wide, panicked eyes. By the time I looked up, silence had swallowed the room whole. And I said, voice even and low, "You just signed away something you had no right to touch. You're not the executors of Grandpa's estate anymore." Jared jumped to his feet. "She's bluffing." "That's not possible. He trusted my dad. He said I was next." "Sit down," Mr. Beck snapped, with a fire I'd never heard from him before. "You and your father forged those papers 6 months ago. I have the forensic reports. Walter knew, and he left this final letter for that exact reason." "What does it say?" my mother hissed, eyes narrowing. I turned the letter around, showed them the crest again, and read aloud the line that hit the room like a thunderstorm. "To my granddaughter, Aubrey Lawson, if they ever turn on you, know this. Everything is yours. The land, the legacy, the shares, the house,
The truth.
Use it well." And then I added, my voice clear as glass, "I don't need to come crawling back, because I never left what was mine. You stole it, but I'm here to take it all back." The air in the room thickened like a storm cloud, ready to explode. My father's jaw twitched. "That letter doesn't mean anything legally. We already signed the papers. We're in control." "No," Mr. Beck interrupted, pulling out a folded set of documents from a sealed file. "That was your assumption. But Walter filed this codicil with me 6 weeks before his death. It's fully notarized, witnessed, and registered with the county court. He dropped it on the table with a loud slap. The only valid will names Aubrey as the sole beneficiary. Everything transfers to her, retroactively. The room cracked. My mother shot out of her chair. That's not fair.
She's always been the black sheep.
Walter wouldn't just hand everything to her. You forged documents, Mr. Beck said coolly. That's a felony. I suggest you sit down and read the consequences before you start shouting again. Uncle Dennis's face flushed dark red. This is a setup. You expect us to believe that girl, who's been living in a shoebox apartment, scraping by on paint sales, is now the owner of the entire Lawson estate. Actually, I said, finally standing, I haven't been living in that apartment for months. I walked slowly around the table, each step deliberate. And I haven't been scraping by. I've been rebuilding Grandpa's old studio. Quietly. Selling my work under a pen name. I've tripled my gallery sales since March. And you know what else? I paused in front of Jared. That gallery I lost. I didn't lose it. I sold it, at a profit. To fund my next move. Jared swallowed hard. What next move? I smiled. Buying back the land you sold behind my back. My father stepped forward, trembling with rage. You think you can just waltz in here with a piece of paper and take everything from us? I held the letter higher. I'm not taking anything that wasn't already mine. My cousin threw a glass across the room, shattering it against the wall. She's lying. She's manipulating everyone. But the room had shifted. Their confidence, their arrogance, was slipping like sand through their fingers. And Mr. Beck wasn't done.
There's one more clause, he said.
Everyone froze. In the event of deliberate fraud or theft by any family member, Walter instructed that those individuals be permanently removed from all access to Lawson funds, assets, and properties. Dead silence. My mother's lips quivered.
No.
No, he wouldn't. He couldn't. Oh, he did, Beck said, sliding over the page. Effective immediately, you, Donovan Lawson, Evelyn Lawson, Jared Lawson, Dennis Lawson, are barred from entering any Lawson property without written permission from Aubrey Lawson. My hands were shaking now, but not from fear. From power. The kind of power I never wanted but needed to wield. Because they left me no choice. I suggest, I said slowly, you all leave this office.
Now.
You ungrateful little brat, my father spat, storming toward the door. You think you've won? We built everything. We made this family, and you tried to erase me from it, I said. Now you're the ones being erased. He slammed the door on his way out. The others followed, curses echoing down the hall. Only Jared lingered at the door, eyes full of venom. I hope you choke on that money. I looked at him, really looked, and said, I hope one day you look back and realize you could have been better.
He left.
And suddenly it was quiet. Mr. Beck let out a long breath. I always hoped this letter would never be needed. I looked at the seal again. The way the wax was cracked, like an old wound finally breaking open. I didn't want this, I whispered. But you needed it, Beck said. And Walter knew you'd be the only one strong enough to use it. I turned toward the window, staring out at the cold sky above downtown Nashville. They thought I'd come crawling back. But the only thing crawling now was their legacy, broken and fading in my shadow. It had been 3 days since that letter burned its way through my world. And in those 3 days, everything shifted. The Lawson estate, once a gated fortress reserved only for the worthy, was now mine. Not just legally.
Completely.
My keycard worked. My passcodes were active. The accounts, the properties, the trust holdings all transferred. Even the beach house in South Carolina that they didn't know I knew about. I stood in the marble foyer of the mansion they tried to keep from me, barefoot on the cold tile, staring up at the crystal chandelier that used to symbolize everything I wasn't allowed to touch. Now, it was just another thing they'd left behind. I hadn't spoken to my parents since the office explosion, but I saw the fallout unraveling across town. My mother had tried to withdraw money from a private Lawson account, blocked. Jared showed up at his country club, only to find out his access had been frozen. He wasn't even on the guest list anymore. Uncle Dennis? His company car was repossessed within 48 hours. They were learning what it felt like to be powerless. And for once, I didn't feel guilty. Not even a little. "You sure you want to be here tonight?" my best friend, Vanessa, asked as we pulled up to the downtown charity gala, one of those legacy events my parents hosted every year to flaunt their status. "They're still expecting me to disappear," I said, adjusting the neckline of my jet black silk dress. "Let's give them something else to choke on." We entered the ballroom like a blade through velvet. The moment I walked in, conversations halted mid-sentence. Champagne glasses paused in midair. Familiar eyes widened, some with curiosity, most with disbelief. Vanessa leaned in, whispering, "This is better than any soap opera I've ever watched." And then I saw them. My father, standing near the auction table, stiff as a statue. My mother, pale but still trying to smile. Jared, red-faced and fuming in the corner, clutching a drink like it was the only thing keeping him upright. They didn't expect me to show up. They especially didn't expect me to walk in looking like the woman they spent years trying to break. I went straight to the stage. The host was mid-introduction when he noticed me. "And now," he said awkwardly, "a surprise appearance by Miss Aubrey Lawson, who has recently taken the reins of the Lawson Foundation." Gasps rippled through the crowd. I took the mic, heart pounding but eyes steady. "Thank you, Marcus," I said. "It's true. I'm now the acting chair of the Lawson Foundation. And tonight, I want to make a new pledge." Dead silence. "I'm restructuring everything. No more vanity donations. No more events where we pretend to care while ignoring the real needs of the city. From this day forward, the Lawson Foundation will dedicate 60% of all funds to underprivileged communities across Tennessee, starting with the same neighborhood where I was mocked for opening my first art gallery." I saw my father clench his jaw. My mother whispered something furious under her breath. I smiled. "I'll also be selling off the vacation homes we never used and investing in shelters, addiction centers, and education programs. This family built a name. I'm going to give it a soul." Applause broke out. Some hesitant, some stunned. But the ones who mattered clapped like they meant it. I stepped down, heart hammering in my ears, and walked past my parents without even looking at them. But Jared couldn't help himself. "You're turning this family into a joke." I stopped, tilted my head. "No," I said. "I'm turning it into something you'll never be part of again." His face twisted with rage. "This isn't over." "It is for you." He tried to respond, but I was already walking away. Out of the ballroom. Out of their reach. Out of their old world. Because tonight wasn't just about revenge. It was the first step to becoming untouchable. 2 days after the gala, my phone buzzed with a call from Mr. Beck. "I need you to come to the office," he said.
Now.
I arrived 20 minutes later to find him waiting with a manila folder and an expression I didn't recognize, somewhere between concern and grim satisfaction. "What is it?" I asked. He slid the folder across the desk. "Something Walter instructed me to give you only after the inheritance was fully transferred." I opened it slowly. Inside were 5 typed pages and one photograph, an old, faded snapshot of a much younger man. My grandfather. Beside him, my father. But there was something else. The letter was dated nearly 30 years ago. And the content made my blood turn cold. "Donovan has betrayed the company once already. Embezzlement. Covered it up with help from Evelyn's father. If this ever happens again, I want the full truth exposed, even if it destroys the family." I looked up. What is this?" Mr. Beck nodded grimly. "Your grandfather always suspected your father would try to steal the estate. He wanted to give you a choice, to handle it quietly or expose everything." I stared at the photo again. My father looked so young, so smug. Nothing had changed. I thought about the years they made me feel like I was the embarrassment, the outsider, the one dragging the family down. And all along it was them. "I want it exposed," I said. My voice didn't shake. Mr. Beck leaned back. You understand what that means, Aubrey. This goes public, and your family's name will be dragged through court. Through headlines. This isn't just revenge. It's war. They started it, I said. Now I'm just ending it with truth. That night, I sat alone in Grandpa's study. The same place where he used to tell me stories about our family's beginnings. The fireplace flickered. The wind howled outside. And for the first time in my life, I felt no fear in carrying the Lawson name. Because now, the truth belonged to me. And they had no idea what was coming next. 2 weeks later, the headlines hit. Lawson family under investigation for decades OLD embezzlement scandal. News vans camped outside their gated neighborhood. Reporters asked questions they couldn't answer. And one by one, their friends, their board members, their allies started disappearing. Because no one wants to stand next to a sinking ship. I didn't gloat. I didn't call them. I just watched quietly. Until one morning, I heard a knock at the door of the Lawson estate. It was raining. And standing there, drenched, suit wrinkled, tie loose, was my father. Behind him, my mother, holding her purse like a lifeline. Their eyes were hollow. Aubrey, my father said, voice low. We have nowhere to go. I stepped outside, the rain soaking through my sleeves. You came to the right place, but for the wrong reason. Aubrey, please, my mother whispered, eyes red. You can't just leave us like this. I looked at her, the same woman who called me just a burden 3 months ago. You left me long before I ever left you. My father shook his head. You don't understand what you're doing. No, I said calmly. I understand exactly. I gave you everything, respect, love, loyalty. You gave me shame, betrayal, and silence. You watched me fall and you laughed. Now I'm standing, and you want me to forget that. He said nothing. Tell me this, I asked. Would you have let me in if our roles were reversed? Silence. And in that silence, the answer was clear. I turned around, closed the door, locked it, and leaned against it, heart pounding, not from hate,
but from peace.
Because it wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about boundaries, about reclaiming myself. I walked back through the mansion's long corridor, passing portraits of people who once thought I didn't belong. And for the first time, I saw the house not as a prison, but as a beginning. Because what they took from me was never the money. It was my voice. And now, it was the only thing they could hear. Forever.